Hey Tom, can I borrow some milk? Hey there, that was Tom. We met him and Bill in our last adventure in the last video. Bill and Tom built a chute system to be able to send things back and forth between the houses. The neighborhood adopted it, and they loved how they're able to take and send each other things through this chute system that they put into packages, and they put labels on the front of it. They hired Hubby at first, but realized soon that Hubby is illiterate, so they got rid of him and brought in Mr. Switch. Mr. Switch could read the labels and then forward the packages. Now, if you didn't watch this video, I'll put a link to it right up here, and you can go back and watch it. It'll make for a good progression of understanding how the whole system works. But let's move forward. So, the system worked extremely well. In other neighborhoods, they started looking and saying, man, look what these guys are doing. We should build a similar system. So they went to work. They looked at what they had and they said, let's do the same thing. So they started digging the trenches, building the chutes, and putting up a similar person like Mr. Switch in order to send packages between them and read the labels. They ended up building these systems, and soon enough you had one neighborhood and another neighborhood and another neighborhood. All the neighborhoods started having their own chute system. And then an idea came to them. They said, well, how can we exchange packages between these or inter neighborhoods? Not just intra neighborhoods, but inter neighborhoods. So they came up with ideas like, why don't we just connect the hubs, the main places where Mr. Switch is, between them, and then we could route these packages from one place to another. So all the neighborhoods got together and they tried to figure out how can we make this work. And they realized that they didn't follow the 12 by 12 by 12 package size. Another neighborhood used 11 by 11 by 11, another one used 11 by 12 by 12, but they were all different. So whenever they got together, they realized that they have to change something because they couldn't dig up all these trenches again and rebuild it. It's going to be way too much cost. So here's their plan. They decided to go by a smaller package. They chose 10 by 10 by 10 because 10 by 10 by 10 would fit in all of the other packages. And they were just going to put a package inside a package. And if it was going to go to a different neighborhood, let's say Tom is now sending a package to Susan, which is in a different neighborhood. Now, what would happen is he'd put this cup of coffee and he would put it in the 10 by 10 package. And then the 10 by 10 package would drop into his 12 by 12 by 12 package. And then to fill that up, and then it'll send it off. Mr. Switch then gets this package and sees that, hey, this is not going locally to Tom or anybody else in the neighborhood. This is going to Susan, which is somewhere else. So he would open up this package, 12 by 12 package, take out the 10 by 10 by 10 package, and hand it off to Ronnie the router. Now they brought in Ronnie the router to send anything that is not local there, anything that's not staying in the neighborhood and going to a different neighborhood. Now Ronnie the router, he had his own list, right? He's got his own table of where everybody is. So Susan belongs to neighborhood blue, and this is neighborhood red, and there's neighborhood orange and neighborhood yellow. So neighborhood blue is this chute over here. So whenever the label on the 10 by 10 by 10 says neighborhood blue, he would just send it over to the chute over here, and it'd go over to neighborhood blue. Now that's the 10 by 10 package would be going to these chutes. On the other hand, in neighborhood blue, pick up the package and says, okay, neighborhood blue, this is our neighborhood, is going to Susan, and put it in another package that was 11 by 11 11, because that's what neighborhood blue used, and then it would send it off to Susan. So this is getting a little bit complex of how this worked, but in order to be able to accommodate these neighborhoods and send packages from one neighborhood to another, they had to do the system of putting one package inside another. Right now, I mentioned Ronnie the router. Why was Ronnie the router important here? Because Ronnie had to figure out which neighborhood to send it to, and he had to be able to read the label. Now, as time went on, this whole system grew more and more and more, and you can imagine that in a central city area where you have to send something from, like, say, New York to Los Angeles, Ronnie the router has a big job, right? He's got a huge list. There are millions of neighborhoods, and he's got to look over and go, okay, where's this going? Where's this going? Where's this going? Similar to the post office, he'd go, okay, this is not going to neighborhood blue. This is going to Los Angeles. And he would put it down a chute, cross-country chute, that would go across the country and send it to Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, they would sit there and look at, okay, this is going to neighborhood blue. So that's kind of how the system works. Now, let's go back to our analogy with networking. So before you had local area networks. It evolved to larger networks, and you have to connect these networks and for them to intercommunicate. And this is where the term internet came from. You have the intranet, the local network, and the internet is the communication between networks. And in order to communicate, you probably heard that you have to have what's called a router, right? And a router, basically what it does is whenever it receives a packet, it goes, okay, this is not on my local network, so I need to send this somewhere else. Where do I send it to? And it goes, I'm just gonna send it to, it'll have a table, it's called a routing table. And it says, okay, this is going to neighborhood blue, or in our case, in our router's case, this is going to subnet X, and I'm gonna send it over here to this gateway that's on the other side of here. And it just sends it over to there and just lets go. And then they figured out on their end where to send it to next. Now, today on the internet, there's a lot of networks, a lot of hops, and a lot of routers out there. It's similar to having the entire country, and you have central routers like you would have like in New York and Los Angeles, that a lot of traffic, a lot of packets go through them. And the way they work, they actually use another protocol called BGP, and they use autonomous systems. An autonomous system would be analogous to like a state or a large city, where they would go, say AT&T has an autonomous system, they get this and they go, okay, this destination is not our network anywhere. This belongs to CenturyLink. So we're gonna send this off to CenturyLink autonomous system. And this is the shortest connection to CenturyLink. CenturyLink gets it, goes, okay, this belongs to us, and then they figure out how to route it properly. Now this is getting a little bit complex, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds. The main things I want to highlight is this, is when networks connected together, they interconnected, it's called an internet. And you have Ronnie the router, right? So you have a router which connects these networks together, and it figures out where the network is and where to send it next. And you have things like your default gateway. Now your default gateway is the gateway where if Ronnie the router doesn't have on his list neighborhood blue, neighborhood orange, let's say it says neighborhood fuchsia, and he's like, I don't know where fuchsia is. Well, he will have what's called a default gateway. Like it's default gateway. It's basically, if I don't have it in my list, I send it over here and they'll figure it out. And that would be kind of like in the central city of New York, let's say in central city, that's where everything goes centrally, and let them figure out where neighborhood fuchsia is. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it made some sense to you. Please leave your comments below, subscribe, hit the bell, and that way you'll be notified when I make future videos. And next time, we're gonna introduce a new character called Fred Wall. As you can imagine, he's probably doing some security. And this is where things start to get interesting. Hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching.